Hello students, today we will be starting our science classes by investigating plant growth. We see a variety of plants growing around us, the huge trees, the bushes, the herbs, variety of flowering plants, herbs, etc. Have you ever thought how new plants grow? Come on, let us now know how new plants grow from the old or the parent plant. The parent plant produces new plants from three different ways. One, by producing seeds. The parent plant produces flower which produces seeds in different forms, which grows into a new plant when it has favorable environment to grow. Second is by producing tubers. Tubers are either edible or non-edible part of roots that grow into new plants when again come into contact with favorable environment like fertile soil, air and water. The third is by producing runners. Parent plant will produce small branches which will produce roots and plant themselves into the soil. These are called as runners, which produce the baby plant or new plant, which again keeps on growing to produce new plants. These are the three different ways how new plants are grown. We will now first see how seeds produce new plants. Plants producing seeds are of different shape and size. Every plant produces seeds depending on the environment that they live in. Have you ever swallowed a seed when you were eating a fruit like an apple or an orange? And someone might have teased you, oh, a new plant will grow in your tummy. Well, that is not true. Seeds grow into new plants when they only get favorable environment to grow. Every seed has a tiny plant growing inside, which grows into a new plant when it gets favorable environment like air, water, sunlight and soil. We will now look deeply into how a seed grows into a new plant. Here this image shows us how a seed sown in the soil grows into a plant. The first part that grows in the seed is the root. When the seeds produce enough roots to hold itself in the soil, a tiny plant starts growing out of the soil in search of the sunlight. This is the shoot or the first leaf that goes in search of the sunlight and grows into a new plant. Now let us look into how a seed grows into a new plant. This is a seed, a dicotyledon seed. Dicotyledon seeds have two halves, and in the middle of the seed you can find a tiny embryo or a tiny plant growing. You can observe this when you soak seeds overnight and they start to germinate. A seed generally has three parts: the cotyledon or the endosperm, the seed coat and the embryo or the tiny plant growing inside. The cotyledon or the endosperm acts as a food supply for the embryo to grow. The seed coat protects the seed or the embryo growing inside the seed. The embryo has two parts, that is the radicle and the plumule. Radicle is the part of the embryo that first grows into the root. The plumule then grows into the shoot system which produces the new plants. For this entire embryo to grow into a new plant, the cotyledon or the endosperm supplies food from its store. This store then dries up when the plant grows above the soil and is efficient enough to produce its own food. You too can observe a tiny plant growing inside a seed. Soak seeds for overnight and let it germinate the next day by keeping it in a small cotton piece and sprinkle some water. Next day, you can open up the seed and observe a tiny plant growing inside. In this session, we learned how a tiny seed grows into a huge plant. In next session, we will learn more about different conditions that require a plant to grow. Thank you. We'll know about the largest seed, that is the double coconut. This belongs to the coconut family and it is said to be the largest seed. And the smallest seed is said to be Wolffia angusta. This is a plant and a seed which belongs to the orchid family. Thank you.